7 motivational success story of truly inspiring entrepreneurs. Hey, you want to be inspired? You want to be motivated? Do you feel like the underdog? Well, I've got 7 stories I want to share with you in this video that's probably going to motivate you to really get things done, and we're starting right now. Hey, I'm JR Fisher. I appreciate you coming to this channel. I appreciate you watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe. There's a big button down there you need to click, and turn on all notifications, bell notifications, turn them all on so I can let you know every single time I do a new video. So you're looking for motivation, you're looking for inspiration, well, you come to the right place. Okay, but before we do all that, I want you to look in the description below. I do have a course down there. It's a $97 course. You can get it absolutely free. You just click and learn. Also, don't forget, during this video, after this video, at some point, put a comment below. Let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know any questions you had, and maybe you have an inspirational story too. Don't forget, maybe you could share that with everybody else. You know, Charles Swindoll said that life is about 10% what happens to you, but 90% of how you react to it. Nothing could be more true than that. So what really are success stories? I think the best success stories are kind of the underdog who overcame all the obstacles. So if you think you've got obstacles in the way, they're probably just stepping stones to help you succeed. I know in the beginning when I started my company, I really didn't have any skills. I couldn't even send emails properly. I didn't know about, sending attachments or anything. I didn't do nothing. And I announced that I was going to start selling products online, and pretty much got laughed at because people thought, well, how are you going to do that? You don't have the skills, you don't have the talent to do those things, you just can't do it. But what those people forgot was online you can learn any skills and any talent. But that's not what this is about. I do have videos on that. What I want to talk about is how somebody with very little going for them could be really successful. So let's jump right into that. The first guy I want to tell you about is a guy named Howard Payne. Now, Howard Payne is the pioneer and starter of the electronic cigarette. Now, no matter what you think of electronic cigarettes, and I don't like them, I don't think they should be out there, but the guy was successful. He came up with an idea. He created a company called Logic, and I think that's a great name for a company that's really illogical, right? it's getting people to do something illogical, and that's like, fumes into their lungs. But he bought a disposable cig to the public. After selling Logic to Japan Tobacco, Payne's then launched a 3-minute per day ab product with Don Brown, the inventor of the ab roller. It gamifies your workouts with an app, and it's now revolutionizing the fitness industry around the world. However, 7 years ago, life for Payne's was entirely different. He was $600,000 in debt, and he had a line of credit for his gym which was totally tapped out. He had no money left. In fact, he was so bad off that the bank took his house in a short sale. Even worse, he went through one of those messy divorces, as if they aren't all messy, right? Imagine this for a moment. Before starting Logic, Payne's was 42 years old. He was essentially broke and on the verge of bankruptcy at this point. In fact, in order to start Logic, he had to borrow $10,000 from his dad at the age of 42. Can you imagine that? I mean, that's a little embarrassing. It's one of the most famed rags to riches stories in America. Today, Payne's collects hypercars. He's a fervent collector of McLarens, Porsches, Ferrari, Lamborghinis. He loves his muscle cars. He loves them all, and he has the means to keep collecting them because of his situation, how difficult it was. He tried that much harder. Let's check out another person. Here's a gentleman named Kent Clothier. He's someone who has an enormous amount of success. The funny thing that about Clothier is that he joined his father's 17-year-old grocery business, but not in a traditional sense. He decided he wanted to do something different. He wanted to do arbitrage on a wholesale level with massive truckloads. What does that mean exactly? Okay, that sounds pretty fancy. He would buy truckloads of grocery goods like coffee in one market and then turn around and sell those items into another market. But after doing that, traditionally for a while, he started to go directly to the wholesale buyers and ask them what they wanted. He created the demand first. Okay, so he went out there and figured out what these folks wanted. He then turned around and bought and sold exactly what they needed. Now, this is called reverse wholesaling, where you actually set up the demand first and then supply the product. By the time he was 30 years old, he had already generated $2 billion in sales. Now, he had a dispute with some of his business partners. He walked away from the business, and he figured, hey, I've done this before, I can do it again. After 18 months of trying, his millions of dollars that he left with had dwindled down to $5,000. One late night he was watching TV and he saw one of those infomercials about wholesaling properties, buying and selling real estate, and that got him motivated. After just 30 days of studying the real estate market and how to buy and sell properties, he ended up with an $8,000 check in his hand. Now this paled in comparison to the money he made previously, but it also proved to him that he could also make money in this market. So once he did that, he realized he was on to something else, and he started a company called REWW, which is really reverse wholesaling of properties. He's since taught his system to thousands of people and made hundreds of millions of dollars. The next guy I want to talk about is Dean Graziosi. Now he's had a 15-year career as a real estate investor. He's an entrepreneur who has appeared in numerous late-night infomercials. He's hung out with people like Richard Branson, Bill Clinton, and has generated hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. Now he had a tough childhood. He grew up as a dyslexic. His two parents, between the two of them, had a total of 9 marriages. Not a good parenting example. So he was one of those underdogs I'm talking about, but since then he's written numerous books, been a New York Times bestseller, and generated hundreds of millions of dollars. Pretty good example from rags to riches. The next guy I want to talk about is Jason Fladlien. Now Jason Fladlien is a co-founder of a company called Rapid Crush. Rapid Crush is the world's #1 webinar training company. He's since generated over $100 million in webinars without even using his own product. He's coached numerous people on how to do webinars, including the famous Russell Brunson. He's traveled the world and trained people on his methods of conducting webinars. Now I just mentioned this guy, Russell Brunson. He is the founder and owner of ClickFunnels. Now I use that product for many years now. I now recommend Kartra, by the way. There's a link below, but ClickFunnels is a great company too. I remember when ClickFunnels first came on the market and it sounded like kind of a cool thing, and I signed up for it, but that company now is on its way to becoming a billion-dollar company. He initially started out selling instructions on how to make potato guns. That's right, potato guns. And he stumbled on this funnel method of upselling and cross-selling people and started a software company called ClickFunnels that helps you set up these funnels. Now if you are in digital marketing, internet marketing right now, and you've never heard of Russell Brunson, you have to have been living under a rock at this point, okay? Because he's made his name a household name in the internet marketing community. Next guy up, love this guy, been listening to it for years, Frank Kern. Frank Kern was brought up in a family with a stepfather that we'll say didn't like him much. He wasn't a success at school or anything like that, and he got into internet marketing. I've met Frank one-on-one. He's a very interesting person, very talented person, very funny guy, but he still has some other issues. He fights with social anxiety disorder every single day, where he's scared to be around crowds, he's scared to be around people, and that's what his job is, to be around people and be around crowds and talk to large groups of people. At one point the FTC came after him, totally shut him down, took everything he had, and he started over again and is even more successful to this date. Now at this point he's one of the most successful high-level coaches to 7, 8, 9-figure businesses. He's even taught Tony Robbins on how to market his products. Next guy up, Joe Polish. Joe Polish is a pretty amazing guy. He started a mastermind called the Genius Network. Now the Genius Network costs $25,000 just to join and listen to what they've got to say. He's also the founder and speaker on the podcast I Love Marketing, which is one of the most popular podcasts in America now. And where did he start? Where did he start out at? He was a carpet cleaner, going from home to home cleaning carpets, but he learned some new skills. Now all of these people started out without any skills. They all started out in less than ideal situations. So what I want to tell you is, if you have a tough situation that you're in now, you're probably more likely to be successful than somebody who's in a great situation. And here's why. Disgust is a great motivator. Okay, if you're angry about having to go to your job every day, if you're disgusted with where you live, what you're wearing, what you're driving, those are great motivators. I know before I started my company, I did work for a company, and the company was not that bad, but I didn't like my boss, and I just didn't want to listen to him anymore, and that was probably my biggest motivation, because I was making okay money, I could pay my bills, and you know, I was getting by and all that, but I didn't like my boss, and that was a big motivator for me. I didn't like the fact that I couldn't spend my time the way I wanted. I was a single dad raising 2 kids, couldn't spend time with them, I couldn't go on the vacations I wanted, and I was just over it. I was going to do whatever it took to figure out how to make money online, and I started off selling cell phone cases and camping supplies and all these crazy things. I ended up building a survival food company, which has done very well, which I have today. That's been in existence for about 10 years now. And I will tell you, none of that would have happened if I had a really comfortable situation. You know, if you're in a really comfortable situation, it's not real motivational. You don't really want to change it that much, because you think, well, maybe my situation could get worse. See, I knew that my situation as far as comfort could not get worse. I was uncomfortable where I was at. My money was okay, but I was uncomfortable. Matter of fact, I even told myself if I could make half the amount of money that I was making in that job, that I would be much happier. So if you're in a situation like that right now, if you're not motivated to go to your job, you probably are going to be motivated to start your own business, and if you do that, you could be wildly successful. You'll never know unless you try. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed some of the stories I shared with you. You can certainly do the same thing. All these people had tough situations. It doesn't matter what your situation is. You got to get that out of your head. You got to get out of your head. You got to look at what's around you. There's a lot of possibilities. There is a course below. It's a $97 course. You can grab it absolutely free. All you have to do is click and learn. No credit card required. Give me your comments on this video. Let me know what you thought of these people. Let me know what you're doing. What is your situation? I want to hear it. If you've had some successes, put that below too. I would love to hear that. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that big subscribe button. Let me move my arm so you can see it. Hit that big subscribe button right there, and next to it, turn on bell notifications. Ring the bell. Turn on all bell notifications so that you're part of the Fisher family, the VIP group that gets notified every single time I do one of these videos. You're part of the family. Pretty cool stuff. Thanks so much for listening to this video, and if you really want to skyrocket your business, you ought to check out this video right here. I'll see you in the next one.